The versatile Boer goat of southern Africa is as much of a staple as wheat and corn in the southern part of the continent. This multicolored marvel is the product of some of the most ancient peoples in the world, and oh my goodness, are they productive. Right now, no other goat on the globe can compete with the Boer in meat production. They are the standard by which every other breed is measured. So come on a trip with us to visit the bushveld and brush where these robust beauties came from. The word Boer means farmer in Afrikaans, a language with Dutch roots that came into existence when Europeans settled in South Africa. It was these early European settlers who first made written accounts of the inhabitants and livestock of the newly discovered land. The Boer goat was by then already well established in South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana. Its origins are impossible to trace. Most likely they were hundreds of years in the making by the time Europe became aware of them. Their populations counted as high as 3 million in the 1800s in South Africa alone, probably significantly more since those numbers mostly reflect larger-scale farms and would not have taken into account traditional homesteads and villages. The Zulu and isiXhosa from South Africa and Herero in Namibia have entire cultural structures set in place around their cattle. Livestock was, and still is, a mark of wealth. The Boer goat already had a significant place in society long before Europeans touched down on the continent. For weddings, only the purest, unspotted goats are brought forth to bless the festivities. No man will present his bride's family with anything but the most unmarked specimen. The first recordings of them noted them to be hardy and fertile, and that they bred well with other European and Indian stock. Europeans were quick to adopt the Boer goat since it was just so much more prolific than their European counterparts. And since it was the chosen goat for farmers, the name Boer bok, or Boer goat, just stuck. By the 1920s, the Boer had become larger and heavier thanks to selective breeding, while still keeping their disease-resistant and docile natures. But it wasn't until 1959, when the South African Boer Goat Breeders Association was founded, that they were officially put on the map and recognized as a breed in their own right. The burly Boer spread far and wide. Today, they can be found in almost every country on the planet. They have huge populations all across Africa, and they can be found in significant numbers in the US, Britain, New Zealand, and Australia. Their popularity in Australia is not surprising, since the arid and sparse landscape is so similar to the desert and bushveld the Boers were originally bred in. But no one could have predicted how well they took to every other place they landed. It's their adaptability to any climate that makes the Boers unique. They can thrive just about anywhere. Salty coastal areas, that's no problem for the Boer. Scorching desert or flat plateaus, bring it on. Wet and damp, the Boer can deal with that too. Besides outright Arctic conditions, nothing can keep this resilient animal from being perfectly at ease. For the most part, they are known for their reddish-brown heads and white bodies, but there is a lot of room for spots and a variety of shades of brown amongst them. And every now and then, a solid brown or pure white kid makes an appearance. With their floppy ears, fleshy necks, and sloping, bulbous noses, the Boers have a distinctive, dopey expression. But they are hugely muscular, with wide chests and heavy heads. This muscle mass is the reason that they are such a valuable meat goat. Bucks can clock in at 160 kilograms on average, but some larger rams can go as high as 200 under the right conditions. They are bearded and have a set of prominent backward-facing horns that curve around their heads all the way under their lop ears. The sheer amount of muscle they carry gives them a stocky appearance, and they can be a rather imposing figure when they are fully grown. But don't be frightened by their large frames. They are truly a mild-mannered goats. Besides males that scuffle on occasion for dominance, they are much more manageable than their kind usually is. Does usually fluctuates between 110 and 130 kilograms. They are more feminine and have much less muscle than the males. Does sport shorter horns that curve ever so slightly behind their ears and necks. They don't have any beards like their stocky fellows do, and they are even more even-tempered than the males are. Goats are known to be terrible mothers, often abandoning their kids, but not the Boer. They have an excellent track record of mothering their babies. They'll deliver every 9 months or so if you keep a ram with them consistently. Furthermore, Boers are unusually fertile. They're prone to delivering twins and can even have triplets on occasion. Given that they carry and aptly care for a higher than average amount of kids, it will be a good idea to give mothers a break between breedings. Every mammal on this planet needs a rest between babies, but one birthing a year is hardly a rate to complain about, especially since you'll most likely be getting more than one new goat per birth. Females in milk have a very good supply of excess, more so than other meat production breeds. So they make for a very well-rounded goat for the homestead to keep the average family supplied with their dairy needs. And speaking of produce, let's not forget about their meat production. This is, after all, what the Boer goats are mostly kept for. You can expect around 20 kilograms of meat if a goat is raised to market age. Raising them from birth to slaughter can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months. A few months more, and under the right conditions, you can easily add another 5 to 10 kilograms to that hanging weight. Spring and summer goats will have an extra layer of fat to them, but even in the leaner seasons, they still deliver tender and high-quality meat. They can comfortably be kept in pens if they have enough to munch on and aren't packed in together too tightly. Like any penned goat, this might cause frustration, since they would much rather prefer to forage and root around in new pastures. So it might be a good idea to move their fencing around every now and then, but if you're keeping only a handful at a time, half a dozen goats shouldn't frustrate each other too much. They are incredibly disease-resistant and require no seasonal antibiotics or specialized feed. If they are left to freely graze, they'll naturally seek out the nutrients that they need at any given time, and they'll be substantially healthier than they would be if they were fed solely with grains. That's not to say that they'll be sickly if they're kept only on feed bought from grain-based sources. It's just that they simply don't need it. They were bred to seek out sustenance in even the harshest conditions, and their systems know very well what they need to find to keep them well fed. And almost every goat out there can absorb nutrients from a greater variety of foliage than other livestock. The Boers are even more efficient at this than usual. If you do plan on keeping them on grain-based feed, be sure to look for options that are sufficient in protein. They are after a meat goat, and good quality meat needs plenty of protein. One unusual trait that some females are prone to is an extra set of teats. If they do have this genetic quirk, there's no need to worry. Most of the time, the extra teats won't produce milk, or very little, and they won't affect her main udder's supply. But every now and then the teats are fully functional and produce just as much as every other nipple she possesses. Most likely, this is a gene they developed because of their unusually high rates of twinning. So in the same way, Boers can adapt to their environments, they've adapted to their fertility. Other than that, you just need a good deworming schedule to keep them happy and healthy. This is the perfect goat to keep for homesteads, small holdings, and large-scale farms. As long as they have enough to eat and a few of their own kind for the company, the Boers are quiet, docile, and easily manageable. This makes them the ideal animal for those who are new to keeping goats or for those who don't have as much room at their disposal. Their gentleness is ideal for those looking to keep them as pets too. And even if you want them for their meat and milk, they are one of the safest options when less experienced goat owners or children are in charge of them. And if they are fenced in permanently, keep their conditions clean and dry. They'll be very happy with just a simple roof cover to sleep under at night during warmer months. But when autumn frost and winter snow comes, you'll need a more protected space set up for them to spend their evenings inside more enclosed structures. All in all, the requirements are not much different than any kind of goat, except that they might be even easier and less prone to violence and temper tantrums like other goats tend to be. Milk, meat, land clearing, and general hardiness are what goats are kept for, and the Boer delivers in spades on all of these fronts. As far as keeping goats go, don't think you're better off with a dwarf variety or a specialized breed just because you don't have a lot of acreage. It's all about temperament, and the Boer goat will be much less cheeky than smaller breeds. African goats are sought after because they are generally healthier, hardy, and less hassle. And the Boer goat is the gold standard even amongst their prized continental cousins. Their productive hooves are here to stay, and any piece of land will be richer with them on it.